Hello. Hi, everyone. Hello. Welcome to the Creating a Compelling Hook workshop. My name is Bre Boswell. You may have seen me during the editor Q&A, but I am an editor here at Webtoon. I work on a lot of different series like Lore Olympus, Down to Earth, Edith, Muted, The Kismet, the list goes on. And I'm here to talk to you guys about creating a compelling hook. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is a hook? The big question. This is different than a premise, and a premise being what your story is about. A hook is the catcher. This is the thing that makes your series what it is, like the grabs the reader's attention. Who is your character? If this is a sci-fi or fantasy world, like what is the world about? Is there anything about the world that's intriguing? And, keeps your readers wanting to know what's going to happen next. It's something that your readers can take home to their family and friends and say, hey, this is what this series is about. It's really freaking cool. You can have lots of different stories in the same genre that have the same type of elements. For instance, a romance with a male and a female protagonist, but the hook is what makes it different, right? There's lots of different romance stories with the same types of elements, but what we're looking for is that hook, what makes it compelling, what makes it unique, what makes it stand out from other series. Also, your hook should be the thing that convinces people to continue reading. This is the intriguing element. This is what makes your readers compelled to continue reading. So the big question, why is a hook important? I feel like I've said it. It just makes your series interesting, right? This is the first time somebody's going to come onto your series. They are wanting to get engaged. They're wanting to be drawn into your series. So it's literally called the hook because it's going to hook your readers, right? So powerful hooks, they tend to allow you to actually expand your world, expand your characters. And appealing hooks allow people to be attracted to it, right? So I really like Shrek, and I feel like Shrek is a good, very universal series or movie that we can all relate to. So for example, a hook of Shrek is an ogre that has to play the knight role and rescue a princess. That's never been done before. That's the interesting thing. So this is more Webtoon based, but we also want to ensure that your hook will be present in the very first episodes that any reader or editor might be reading your series. So there's different hooks that we like to present in each episode, right? So the first episode, your most important episode, this is the cover. Everyone doesn't say judge a book by its cover, but you really do. What are your main characters? What's interesting about them? Is there a potential conflict that's being introduced that could be something that's worth finding out more about? And episode 2, you got to continue on that intrigue. Continue building your conflict, your main character, and their motivations, because sometimes those motivations might be the hook, right? Episode 3 is almost as equally as important as episode 1 because it'll be the episode that will want to encourage readers to come back a whole other week to read your series. So I like to put the series hook at the end of episode 3. This is going to establish future expectations for the whole series. So by the end of episode 3, your readers know exactly what they're going to get into. So these are going to be factors that will help you build your hook, because you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't even know how to make a hook, or maybe my explanation before wasn't even that good. So you're really wanting the tools on how to build that hook. I really encourage you to ask yourself just the following questions, like who is this story about? Who is your main character? What do they want? What are their goals? Do they have any kinks or quirks that just really make them appealing? So, we got to get their strengths. We got to make them a likable character. Even if they're not a likable character, why should we continue to care about them? So, really make sure you're asking yourself those questions and then put them into the episodes. And after you have your character, you got to find out what's standing in their way. Who is the conflict, or what is the conflict? There has to be some obstacles in your character's way to their goals to make us interested in what they want to do. If it was just as easy as, oh, I want to get an A, I'm going to study, and they get an A, that would not be as compelling as, say, I want to get an A, but the test is like defeating a dragon, so I have to actually learn to fight a dragon. Like, that's a lot more compelling. That's more intriguing, and it hooks the audience. It gives you a little bit something different. So also, when you're thinking about your hook, you have to consider your genre. Is like the genre and the mood and the tone go hand in hand. So if it's a romance, you might have a happy hook. For say a thriller, there might be a sad hook. Slow burn, epic adventure. These tones kind of help either validate the genre, and they also help intrigue the audience. They feel like this is the right genre for this type of story. Like it's coming to their expectations that this makes sense. It kind of helps you introduce the inciting incident as well. This is the moment that things just start to change. This could be the hook. One of the things that I like to say is like the piece of the pie that is the character's whole story. And again, bringing up Shrek. So for Shrek, his inciting incident was Lord Farquaad exiling all the fairy tales to his swamp. And of course, he didn't like that. So that started him on the journey of getting to that hook, which is he has to go rescue the princess. When we're thinking about building the hook, we have to think about everything that leads up to that hook. So that's why we have to make sure that we have the tone, we have the mood, we have the genre in mind, and it's all leading up to the thing that makes your series intriguing. And here we go back into genre. So, whenever we think about genre and our hooks, they have to be relevant to the genre. So you can't have a romantic hook in a thriller genre, in the thriller genre. That wouldn't really make a whole bunch of sense. So for example, and list in the comments if you recognize these series, they are Webtoon originals. A hook for this romance series is the boy she asked to kiss on the subway is not only her neighbor, but her math tutor. How will this turn out? So it's setting up that this is a romance. It has a pretty happy-go-lucky mood to it, and it fits well within the romance genre. It's something intriguing that readers have to keep reading to find out, right? Another example for this supernatural series, what did this deceased sinner do to deserve punishment in the ninth circle of hell? I mean, sounds intriguing. You're questioning what is happening, how did this character get into this situation? And it's, again, not the premise of the series. This is the thing that is the question that readers will continue to have in their brain as they continue to read your series. This is also something that you should keep in mind when you're, especially romance, since romance is really heavy on our platform, avoiding those cliches that people tend to do a lot. How many times, again, using that example of a female and a male protagonist, having those same hooks that oh, they were neighbors. That's not as intriguing as, say, for instance, the previous slide where it says, oh, math tutor and neighbor, but she also asked to kiss him. So that's an embarrassing moment. So, keeping to add those elements that make it what it is, that make it unique. We can't just have repetitive hooks, because then they stop becoming compelling. Thinking to yourself, how is my series similar to other series, but how is it different? What makes it stand out? What makes it eye-catching to a reader or possibly an editor? And then we got to think about our characters. A hook not only is for story-wise, but it also has to be within your characters, right? What is the first thing that we see your main character doing? Is it really boring? Are they sitting in a chair? Or are they jumping over a stream and we're wow, this character is super adventurous? You got to really think about the best way to introduce your character, the best way to portray your character, either visually, through their dialogue, through their body language. You have to think about all of these when you're in a visual media like Webtoon. People do this with animation, people do this with print comics, making sure that you're not just thinking about hooks within your story, but you're thinking about hooks like in your visualizations. Really making sure your characters come off as strong as possible is like another good way to do that. And again, thinking about like why your readers should care, because even if you have like a really compelling hook for your narrative, if your character isn't as compelling or your character isn't as appealing, then why would the readers want to continue? They have to have some reason to care. It could be because they're the most cinnamon roll character on the planet, or it could be that they're the most angsty villain that has like a very tragic past and we have to learn more about it. Like they're out of control. So you could go in any direction, but we have to know why we should care. And again, that goes back to setting up their goals, setting up their conflict, and then eventually getting to that inciting incident. This is the pivotal moment that will change your character's journey, basically. So all of those are what makes a compelling hook. So when you have your initial hook, you have to keep creating hooks. The downside of working at Webtoon is that we are a digital media platform. So there are many instances where people can get bored really fast. So how do we keep their attention? Cliffhangers. I know a lot of you are probably like, oh no, but I hate the cliffhangers. Cliffhangers are great. They make your readers want to know more. They want to keep coming back. And cliffhangers don't just have to be like, oh, we found out who the murderer is and it will be revealed next episode. It could be as simple as like ending on a really high intensity fight, or ending on a real high intensity a romantic scene, maybe right before the kiss. So then they have to read the next episode to see the kiss, or possibly the kiss gets interrupted. Most of the time, romance has a sense of really playing with the cliffhangers more than any other genre, which is funny because thrillers, mysteries have really good intention for cliffhangers, especially at the end of episodes. And when you're also thinking about seasons, if you notice, a lot of Webtoon originals have different seasons, so they have to think about what is the end hook of that season finale that people can wait multiple months while I work on the next season to still want to come back, right? So I also used another Shrek example. They rescued the princess. Now they have to bring her to the kingdom without catching feelings for each other. Me thinking if Shrek was in Webtoon format, we would have had, Lord Farquaad sending all of the fairy tales into Shrek's swamp by episode 1. By episode 3, Shrek would have been off to find the princess in order to get his swamp back. And then at the end of the season, they've rescued the princess. Now they have to take her back, but they kind of have feelings for each other. And that's like, uh-oh, I'm not supposed to. And, just making sure that you're thinking about, how can I keep this story engaging as the premise continues and as the plot progresses. Because if you have a really exciting first arc or first season and you get to season 2 and it's a little like normalized or boring, that's when readers can fall off too. So, even if you have this really exciting climax or really exciting point in the story that you're just dying to get to, and then you get to it, what you have to keep asking yourself, what next? Rather than immediately getting into a resolution, how can you keep the story going? And this is especially thinking if you're wanting to do a longer series. So this is a little more interactive. I kind of want to see what you guys can come up with for Age Matters and Unholy Blood. Now remember, these are their hooks. What made the series really, really compelling? And while you guys type out that, I will tell you about Unordinary's hook. It's simply a boy with no powers in an all-powerful school. That's the hook. That's the thing that gets people going. He's being bullied. in this really powerful high school. There's those dynamics, and you see that really early on. And then by the time you see John's character, you're like, what is he doing here? I have to know more. Why is he here? Why can he fight? Because he has obviously physical abilities, but he doesn't have magical powers. So that was the hook. That was what kept readers coming back each and each day, or each and each week. Let's see. I could possibly give you guys Age Matters as well. For Age Matters, a older woman almost hitting her 30s has to work for a young, rich boy. It sounds pretty simple, but that's like what the hook is that this hardworking woman, she has so much aspiration, but never got the chance, and then getting the chance working for a younger man, and it just makes her mad. So, seeing that, like, that compelling hook, that thing that makes the series different than other romances, because it could just be about an older woman dating a younger man, but instead it's about her working under him, and how does that make her feel?
Hi, Bre, are you able to hear me? I wanted to point out some great hooks I'm seeing here. Where Puppy says, Unholy is a regular orphan girl trying to live a normal life in a world with vampires, while secretly hiding she is also a vampire, a strong one.
Oh, yes, that's a good hook. Anyone else? Vampire lady fights against other vampires and tries to pretend to be human. Yeah, I mean, these are definitely pretty on point. I think that the simple hook for Unholy Blood is the fact that we think that she's just a regular human, but the hook is she is, and she's a pure blood. That was what really got everyone's attention. We were like, oh, we weren't expecting this. We thought she was in danger when that vampire was coming towards her, but then we realized that vampire was in danger himself. So, really thinking about the things that it could just be as simple as, like, what made me really like this series? What was the thing that kept me going, kept me coming back? And you want to make sure that your series also has this, that your readers have something to look forward to every single time you post. I am a big advocate about, posting consistently on Canvas, and, letting your readers know when you're going to post, and making sure that your posts or your uploads and your episodes aren't just like 2 or 3 panels each time, but they have something rewarding, because that reward will make your readers feel like they earned it. And that's something that kind of goes hand in hand with those hooks, right? They keep coming back to find out more, to keep reading. But those were good. So yeah, if you just, keep your readers' attention, raise those questions so that your readers keep asking every single time they come back. Your characters are introduced in a intriguing way, and, tension, creating danger, or, if it's a romance, you can just, make sure your characters keep coming in contact with drama. I know some people are like, oh, the drama is so unrealistic, but it's what keeps a lot of readers coming back, because it keeps them on their toes. So, just keeping that stuff in mind whenever you're thinking about your hooks. And it doesn't have to just be one single hook at the beginning, but, throughout the whole series. And that's about it. So any questions that you guys have for me, I'm more than happy to answer. We have around 8 minutes left, so hopefully that's enough time to get through everything.
I have a couple of questions in the beginning. I will tell some of them right now. So one of them was, they've been in their series for about a year now, but they feel like it's with the week opening. Would it be worth redoing with a better hook, or should they just continue with their current progress?
That is a very good question. It really depends on what your goal is. Is your goal to grow as a creator, or is it your goal to make sure that that series you're working on is as good as possible? I have a lot of creators that their first series, it wasn't as great as it could have been. And a lot of even original creators, they're going through their series and they're like, wow, I've learned so much, and now I want to take this stuff that I've learned and put it into a brand new series, something that I know that I can plan, have a lot of forethought and take all of the stuff I've learned and put it into this new series. So I guess it's just really up to you. Is your goal to make sure that the series you're working on is as intriguing as possible, or rather take that stuff into a new series? Because, you know, you live and you learn, you work and you get better. And that's just kind of how that goes.
We did have another question. So you did already kind of share some great hooks. Is there any in particular that you think are like some really great hooks that you would like to share?
So one hook that I think it was just like something, it was a Canvas series that I am now working on, Down to Earth, you guys might know. It's something as so simple as just an alien and a man living together, but that hook has never been seen before on Webtoon. It's just a really fun concept to go from an alien's in my backyard to, oh my gosh, this alien is living with me. How is this going to play out? And the whole 3 rules. It could be as simple as that. And that's the hook that people keep coming back to. There's never really a right and a wrong answer with hooks. It's just like what makes it compelling. Like lots of examples I could give, but again, it's just kind of thinking within yourself, like what would make my series unique and what makes it stand out from other series in my genre.
We did have another question. This was kind of asking about prologues. Having one kind of shows character or tone, and you know, do you think is it a positive thing to have, or could it also be a hindrance?
That is a really, really good question. Prologues are a hit and miss, and it really depends on what you're trying to portray in your prologues. If your prologue is trying to set up your characters into their world, sometimes it can be a little convoluted, and sometimes you'd rather just see them in the present and like what they're doing and just hop right in. There's other times where we use prologues. For instance, I'm pretty sure it was Sub-Zero, where we wanted to show you that there was going to be romance elements in it. But we weren't able to get to that romance element within 3 episodes, so we wanted to show it to you early on. So the prologue used in that case was to, again, kind of going with tone and mood to set up that romance element and to give you that expectation that there will be hot and steamy romance, even though we're starting to see our main character in a really grave, desolate wasteland of her country and the war. So you really have to think smart about your prologues and what they're trying to come across.
Another question that I think a lot of people are interested in: have there been originals that didn't really hook an editor in the first 3 pages?
Yeah, I would say that there are some times when going through Canvas, we see the potential of a series, and then we'll, you know, want to find out more about it. But they never actually got to the hook in time. But then once we reach out and we actually talk to that creator and see, oh, there is the hook coming up, but it's just not in the Canvas episodes yet. It's all about seeing that potential as well. Like there's a lot of series on Canvas that don't actually hit that mark of, you know, making sure that the hook is within the first 3 episodes. And that's okay, because we do understand that Canvas, like you guys are working on your own. You don't have an editor to look over your stuff. And we do like to try to find that hook when reading series, but it is a lot easier for us if we know exactly what we're getting into the minute we open your series, for sure. Saves a lot of time, saves a lot of reading. We could just say, oh yeah, this series is about you know, the Grim Reaper, but instead of it just being about the Grim Reaper, she was a sinner, and we have to find out what she did to deserve the job as a Grim Reaper. So, you know, thinking about what would make any reader or any editor interested in your series, and like trying to put that up front as much as possible, rather than trying to establish stories or doing exposition. Best to try to get to your hook as much as possible. And I do see one that's like, you know, can you include hooks that don't spoil? Of course, I think that hooks can also be in the sense of foreshadowing. They don't have to be spoilery. And the idea of hooks isn't to actually reveal anything. It's to make your readers ask the questions, right? So you're asking yourself questions to establish a hook that will make readers ask the questions. It's all about, creating that that need and that expectation of like, I'm coming to read this so I can figure out this, or I'm reading this series to see how this relationship develops. Just thinking about, again, what makes your series intriguing, and putting it forefront, and doing the best you can to make sure that it comes across.
All right, that will be our last question. And thank you, Bre, and thank you, everyone, for attending.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I hope you guys had a good time, and enjoy the rest of the event. Goodbye.